everyone, and welcome to episode 152 of the 10-minute modeling challenge. Last week we did a rock cluster, so I've got that one loaded in Blender. I've got a few of the rock clusters here, and this week we're going to be doing trees. I'm expanding nature here. And I created a test scene in Unreal Engine. Let's switch over to Unreal Engine. So this is my test scene at the moment. I put a lot of the assets in here, and I've done a lot of testing during the week with different type of trees. So I'm going to go through them a little bit quickly, and then we'll jump into the modeling part and make ourselves a new tree too. But you might recognize a few of these things if you've been hanging out in the Discord too. These are the type of rock formations that I started with. I should actually change maybe the time of day. So let's change so it's not quite as dark. So ultra dynamic sky, that's the assets I'm using for this, and then we'll just bring it a little bit more to daylight. So here are the different rock formations that I put, and then this tree I already had from before, so I'll do something similar today during the 10 minutes and see how far we can get with that. And then I've tried a lot of the different foliage types, foliage, sorry, I keep saying that wrong. Someone pointed it out last time, thank you, because I keep saying foliage, but it's foliage. And you might recognize something similar to this, which is the tree from Unfair Rampage, but with not as many different like clusters of leaves, because performance becomes an issue. When you've got a big level like this, then performance becomes an issue, even for Unreal Engine. So I've been looking into alternatives. I also made these little colorful clusters here too. It's pretty windy at the moment. That's just for testing. Otherwise it looks like Elden Ring. I always made fun of it because it's a bit too violent, and now I've actually implemented it myself, the wind, but it's mostly for testing. So these are different type of clusters. These use alpha cutout masks, and they're pretty taxing for the game engine or for the graphics card to process. I noticed that with Unfair Rampage, my CPU or my GPU went through the roof, pretty much. Had to bring it back down. And then it was because the alpha cutout takes a lot of power. That was unexpected to me, but that's the way it is. So I was starting to look into alternatives, and this tree up here, it doesn't use any alpha cutouts. These are all individual geometry nodes, not geometry nodes, but pieces of geometry. And I'm using nanite instead to render these trees. And they're actually more performant, even if you've got like 300,000. I think I put myself a limit similar to on Fortnite, and I saw a devlog, and they have about 300,000 verts. I have a little bit more struggle since I don't texture map. Then it's a bit of a more struggle for me because I don't get as much details out of the same leaves with the same amount of polygons, so it's a bit of a challenge for me, but I think we'll get there in the end. So these are the sort of trees that I started to do in the end, and the benefit with this, even though these look kind of cool and lush, these have a bit of a problem. If you look at an angle like this, then they'll start to break apart, especially if you have like a wide thing like this, and then you stand on the side here, then those tend to, now it's not as obvious, but they break apart a little bit, and there are some issues apart from performance. Whereas these trees now, with the full geometry ones, they don't have that problem. And then also they react to light a lot better. So whatever, it looks a little bit more natural. If you come up pretty much close into the trees like this, then they look a lot better than these ones here. These start to have some issues with like sharp angles when it's the alpha cutout. And then I took it from there, and I started to do a different, like in Europe it's heading to autumn now, or the north part of the globe. Here we're heading into summer. It was 34 degrees today. But I started to make some different type of trees, and then I also enabled first I didn't have subsurface scattering on my leaves, so I was missing that a little bit. And if I reduce the cloudiness on the weather, so let's go into clear skies instead, then we can see now I really like this effect with the subsurface scattering, and I'm using a material with two-sided foliage, the shader inside of Unreal Engine, and now we get these like nice translucent effect shining through the leaves underneath. I think that looks really nice. It took a bit of a trial and error to get to this point, because I had to separate, so I have two materials now, one for the tree trunk and one for the leaves, because I didn't really want to use CPU power or GPU, I keep saying the wrong thing. I didn't want to use GPU power to have a translucent tree trunk that wasn't going to be seen, so I've actually applied two different materials now. But I think it looks really nice when, especially during the autumn leaves like this, you get, and I can imagine if I combine it a bit with some god rays or something and some maybe low hanging mist, it's going to look really nice. And then after that, I placed a whole bunch of them in this world, and I'm pretty amazed at how it performs really, because I keep getting pretty much a steady 60 FPS. I think now that I'm recording it might be, but let's do stat FPS here. Now it's 80 frames per second, something like this. And then I went all like super crazy up here in the mountains. I put like big trees, and then I put a whole bunch of trees up here, like hundreds of them, and you just go into them and it kind of just works. It's a hazy on this level, so and then over here I think I put some test assets. Oh yeah, here I've transitioned into a snow region too. I haven't put any trees in here yet, but now we go in and it starts to snow here. So these, oh yeah, I put some of my older trees here. These are also geometry node trees that we'll be looking at today. And then I put another test section over here with apparently some, oh yeah, here are some of the stone assets that we had from last time. So, oh yeah, one more thing before we move on, and that is these trees over here. Check these out. These actually animate over time. I'm pretty happy with these. And you'll see they'll pop into like, boop, there we go, full again, because I animated them over time. What I did was I took each leaf. So when I generated a tree, I created a Python script that loops through all the leaf clusters, or all the individual leaves in the cluster, I should say. And then I assigned a UV value, the U value of a second UV map channel. And that's a sequential number. I actually made, I just asked AI to help me write a script to do this, and it did it in like 2 minutes. And then I had it, and after that I just imported it into Unreal Engine. And with each value in the UV channel having a separate value here, then I could actually animate the shader to say, over time, just mask out anything with a UV value on the second UV channel above a certain value. And then over time, then these just drop down. So you could have a slider just going from full coverage down to 0. And as you pull that slider, then you just gradually reduce the leaves. And then I put a Niagara system on each tree that just spawns a whole bunch of ones that are flowing in the wind. And then it makes a little bit more sense when it's more windy. That's why I ramped up the wind. And if I, let's go into play mode, Alt-P, and then we can run over here. You can see, oh, here we go. I've increased the jump height so I can actually do some debug jumping. Now when we come over here, they start full, and then we have the nice wind is just kicking off. And initially I actually saved the location of each tree leaf that's disappearing too, because in the third UV channel, and in one of the leftover channels that I had in the second UV channel, I could map the coordinates of the leaf too. So I actually have the position of the leaf that's disappearing at any given time in 3D vector space, XYZ. So I actually know which leaf is disappearing, so I could technically have my Niagara system just spawn a leaf in that particular location instead, and literally have it appropriately taking away a leaf and then spawning a new leaf, and then I could animate every single leaf off the tree over time. Then they actually disappear after 60 seconds, so they land on the ground here and then just disappear. And I realized that even though this looks kind of cool and nice, I think for a feature tree it would work. But when I took this and put it into a blueprint and put it in a bigger level with like 1,000 trees, then I ran into issues with performance. So I'd have to make sure that I cull all the Niagara systems that are not near the player in that case. So it probably needs some more optimization. But I think over time, like if I can improve this system a little bit and support maybe seasonal transitions for all the trees, that would be kind of cool. Because it's a nice, imagine if you put some music and you run in like in this autumn landscape and go, ooh. And another thing, these leaves are a little bit big now. Like when you get up close to it, you see that they look, oh yeah, I've got a collider, so I can't really get too close. But they're unrealistically big. And when I reduced the size of them, I needed to go up to like millions of polygons. And even if it's technically possible in Unreal Engine, I'm trying to stick to the budget of 300,000 verts per tree, because that's what I know that they use in Fortnite, so I know I can get away with that one in a decent amount. So here I am at the moment, and I've actually created so this is how my mind works and how my day works. Whatever I find most energy for, or whatever I find entertaining and enjoyable at the moment, I switch my mind over to that, because I can deliver more output through my own mind by doing that. So taking the trees, I thought, okay, I'm going to need a level now that I can create a whole bunch of assets in, because this is a pretty big map. Like if I scroll out, it's a lot of space, and this would have been enough for me. But then I started to think, well, I'm going to use different type. I'll have different autumn trees. I'm going to have different biomes, like I'm going to have a swamp section. I'm going to have I started to put a bit of winter stuff in here. And I wanted to have like a tropical region. And then I thought it doesn't make sense on a map this size, even if it's pretty big. You know, I just run out of space. Plus, I wanted to design my biomes a little bit more. There's a biome like control function, well, a plugin in Unreal Engine 2 that I wanted to use. So then I thought, okay, I'm going to create a new map. So I downloaded one that I haven't used before. It's called Gaia. And I created this one instead, which I'm really happy about. And until I actually created it first once, and then it disappeared. It cleared the cache for some reason, so I had to redo it because all my draw nodes were just cleared. And I was using the community version. It's totally free to use that one, and you can use it and create images up to 10K height maps. Not 10K, 1K. So 1024 by 1024. So I created that one, and then you cannot use that for commercial use. So a couple of days ago, I actually bought the $99 indie version too. So now I can bake this up to 8K. And to run through, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it's not a Gaia tutorial, but you should look into this program if you want to create nice maps. Because even though you can design your own one in Unreal Engine by just using the terrain creation tool, I found myself that it takes a long time. You know, I spend a little time and, you know, I get stuck on one particular region and I know I've got a whole map to do. So this one I've done instead like this. I drew a height map, just a very rough one, because before that I actually drew this hand-drawn map too. And don't mind this pizza stain at the top there. That so accidentally came there when I was, I don't know, eating. So this one is using just a pencil on a little graph paper. And the graph paper doesn't really matter. I could have done it like on a normal paper. It's just that I happen to have a graph paper that I hadn't used a single page in. So I used that one. And I used to draw maps with my kids to do like some basic role playing on those. We rolled some dice and just came up with loads of funny stories and challenges. So I took inspiration from that and I drew a map with different type of biomes. And then I loaded the Gaia, and then I just used the draw node here to draw something similar where I knew I wanted the shape of the island like this, and I wanted a big mountain here for some snow region. I wanted a big castle up here for the future because I've been playing Elden Ring. So it's inspired by that. But there is actually a node like this, an island node that you can use too. And these are like seeds that you can just use, and but I wanted my own design, so that's why I just drew my own. And then I'm starting to go, I'll just quickly run through the nodes so you can see the concept behind it. So I had a blur node to make it blurry, and then I lowered it with an effect node, and then I eroded it. This is the cool stuff with Gaia. You can actually just apply an erosion filter. You've got loads of control of how much erosion and how much these pockets. So already it's starting to look a bit like it's been filling out. It looks a bit more natural already. And the controls in Gaia drive me absolutely around the bend when it comes to rotating the camera. So if I'm like unable to control this one, blame Gaia, don't blame me, because I've got nothing to do with the fact that I cannot navigate this thing. I've tried to remap it, but for some reason you cannot map the shift key, only the alt key. Oh, never mind. And then here's another one. I applied a crater, and then you can position that anywhere and you can put loads of them in. So, but I put one there, and then I put another one here because I wanted a bay, a natural one, to be created. And then I created apparently another a big crater up here. This was just a way to change my map a little bit. And then I eroded the whole map again. And then I started to put a couple of volcanoes. Okay, this one is not baked for some reason. So I've had some issues with my cache baking and unbaking. But these are two volcanoes that I put up because I had that on my hand-drawn map. And then we go over here and it's starting to put these together. And then you can mask these different things. And this one's not loaded either. So you can actually... Here is... something. Okay, I've got a whole bunch of stuff that's not loaded off the cache for some reason. So it's starting to put together. Here's like a little sand dune area, and then we go forward, fractal terraces, and then I blend that one with these are mask nodes. So then I could put, if you see the difference from here, these okay, cannot zoom in for some reason because it's like stupid. But here one, I'm branching it off, making it crackulated or something, and then I did it into terrace. And then I do a draw node to filter it out, so only these regions are affected. And now I could actually create a little bit more interesting environment there. And then this one, okay, this one's not loaded from the cache either. These are like fractally generated, and then cracks. And then I have to zoom out, but for some reason it's not allowing me. There we go. And then we go crumbling that together, and then terracing it, and then we're eroding it. And then we're blending it together. If this one's loaded, yeah, the mask node here. And then now we're starting to get to, and then I just keep going like this. Okay, load from cache a couple of mountains because I wanted this region to be loaded up or raised up. And now we're starting to get to the final. We've got a crater field, a canyon, and plates that we're doing a whole bunch of wizardry on. This is just for the underneath the water, I think. And then eroding it again, and then just doing, and then in the end, after all of those operations now, I start to get an island the way I wanted it. So once I had this one, I baked it into an 8K texture because I just bought the new one. And then I brought it into Unreal Engine here. And if I'm going to go into levels, we can see island. Here's a new one. Let's don't say that one. And here's the new island. And this one is 4 by 4 kilometers. So I'm gonna have plenty of space to put my assets in here. I'm gonna just resize it. This one is running with Nanite 2. That didn't go without problems. There's actually a bug in version 5.6 on Unreal Engine that only creates the first 63 clusters of a Nanite island if you don't use world partitioning. So I ran into that bug, of course, and wondered why half my landscape was missing. But in the end, I managed to get it loaded because I switched over to world partition. So if you run into that issue, that's the reason, until version 5.7. But I should really be partitioning this one anyway. But this is huge. Check this out. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. It looks a little bit square from the air, but you're never really going to see it from the air like this. So I could probably improve these a little bit by just making sure that I don't like use it all the way out to the edges. But here we go from the top here. 4 by 4 kilometers, and here we're starting. If I zoom in, I just applied my material that I created last year, I think, like a low poly material for a plane. It just uses vertical masking to identify where it's steep on the map, and then it fades that one to a rock texture like this. And I hand painted that one just in Krita, just using some different cloud nodes and stuff. And then for the grass, I've just created, again, I just merged a bunch of different stuff in Krita to create like a pretty basic looking grass. But as I applied that one, I'm really happy with, we've got the mountains over here. Of course, we need to put a lot of assets in here. And here we've got a little height, a separate section. This could be something totally different, having a totally different style of art assets in here. Over here is the volcanic island. So I like this little plateau over here. Fly over to this one. Here we go, a little inner lake. I haven't put any sand on the ground there. So here's going to be a nice place to put some totally different type of assets too, and we've got this nice view of the vista. And backside here, there's going to be lava stuff. I was thinking different like emissive lava flows and things. We can go into modeling that type of stuff. And then we've got the crater field in the center of the map. I'm going to put a swamp around here somewhere, I think, in between. And then we've got a center field here. Here we've got a little bit of a canyon that's running through, and the water is just coming from the ocean leaking in. So I'm going to put some rivers in here too. But here's like some dunes. And again, thanks to Gaia, because then I could create something that looks a little bit similar to dunes. And then again, in Krita, I just created a pretty basic repetitive sand dune. So like it looks a bit repetitive, but when you're playing down from here, you're not going to really be able to see that one. And over here we've got, so if I go to this corner, we'll increase the fly speed a little bit like this. We've got, here's a nice view, and I think, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see this stuff come to light. Oh, up here we've got, these are the trees that I created, again, using geometry nodes, just creating some pine trees or some things. And then up here, and here's the cool thing with ultra dynamic sky and weather, you can actually create regional overrides. So when you get up here, it naturally just starts to snow. So that's really cool, I thought. And here's the highest peak, I think, of the snowy. And here I can just press Alt-P and jump into play mode. And then here we go, still running at about 90 frames per second, even though it's rendering this huge landscape. And we've got the footprints are working in the snow and everything. So now we can start to explore. And down here, let's run down here, because here's where I'm starting to move my assets into. And one of the issues, the shadowing, I think they're going to improve that in the next version of Unreal Engine, because that's my only critique. I mean, I'm blown away by the way it looks. Look at this steep cliff here. So but the shadowing, I need a little bit more contrast on the trees. They look a little bit too flat from up here. So I don't think it's going to be a problem, because I'm going to have like stuff in the foreground. So it's just when you're actually staring at that one right now. But I think they're going to switch. I saw the Witcher 4 demo, and they've actually used, they've got a new technique where they do some really cool voxelization of the foliage. And I think that's going to actually help with the way the shadows are generated, because I'm using virtual shadow maps in here. So many things to learn in Unreal Engine. I mean, it's pretty powerful right out of the box, but it's just knowing like these different things. Should I use normal shadow maps? Should I use virtual shadow maps? Should I use nanite? Should I not use nanite? Should I use streaming on my world partitions? Or should I not? So, but luckily enough, no matter what you do, it tends to just like give you the most amount of performance that you can with a given setting. And then I'm gonna go to the edge here and let's just jump off it. Woo! So I've increased gravity by 4 times. Otherwise, I feel too floaty. But now, when we get here, this is going to be my autumn section. So everything that I design now, from now on, that's going to be related to like an autumn biome. It's going to go in this. So we've got plenty of space here to create a whole bunch of things. So it's going to be a lot of 10-minute episodes where we can create not just nature stuff, we'll create things like ruins and houses and bridges. I'm really excited about different type of bridges and anything that you can really put. Now we're starting to see the shadows are popping in, so the trees are starting to look a lot nicer when you get a little bit closer. So this is the way I wish the shadowing on the self-shadowing on the trees would have been working from a distance. I think that would have looked really incredible. So we get closer now and we can see earlier today I created a bunch of birch trees. I'm really happy about that one. I've created a taller one here, and I'm working on some saplings and stuff and young trees, and then I created this old one too. And then when you walk through here, we can see we get the nice subsurface scattering on the leaves here, and they're animated in the wind. Another performance issue, if you're running into that one, is to disable world position offset animations, even though they look nice, but from a distance you have to disable those. That's actually the most taxiing part of the when you're using nanite and animated foliage. And over here, now we're actually going to be coming into the modeling section now, because here I've just put some of the assets, I brought them over, and here are the rocks that we made last week. So there's going to be plenty of space here to put a whole bunch of assets in here, and we're going to watch this world come to life and then see if we can create a little experience in here. So that's where we are right now. We're going to create a tree, and I was going to create a willow tree, I think, and put it so it maybe works over there by the water or something. So let's switch out of Unreal Engine now and go here, F11, and then we'll go into Blender. And here, now I've got to relearn all my controls here. I'm going to hide these rock clusters that we're not going to be modeling. And then over here, another thing that I made this week was I've been working on a thing in Blender, which is geometry nodes. I'm really happy about this one because first I modeled, this tree is all hand modeled. So this is like a low poly-ish tree, but it's got that special design on it. And then before I start, just so it makes a little bit more sense, if I go into, I press Z, then I go into solid, you can see that I've actually done vertex painting here. And this was ideally or originally designed so I could get the animation working with world position offset animations in Unreal Engine with ultra dynamic skies weather. Then you can say how much the tree should be affected. And you control that by painting different vertex colors. And the red one here controls the big movements. So when you have wind, I didn't really want it to bend and the roots to be affected at all. So this one's got a value of 0. And then I gradually just paint up red the further up the tree you get. So it'll get more and more affected. And then you have for the green and blue channels, that'll actually affect the minimum movement. And there is a bit of green in here. You can see the tips here. I've started to paint a little bit of green, but it has a really big impact. So when you start to animate this and put wind in it, the medium movement, these looks like ribbons floating in the air. So I have to be really careful and just put a little bit of green. And for this tree, I don't put anything in the blue channel because that's micro movements. That's just for leaves. So that's why I don't have any blue channel in this tree at all. And I'm actually using these colors too, to use geometry node script that I created to populate these, because I started to manually put all the leaves in and that didn't work so well. I'm going to switch over to material preview now. And then I've created this geometry nodes, and we'll switch over to the geometry node ones here. And I've tried to organize it. So it's going through, it's bending the tree, it's doing, finding out branch locations for the tree, it's spawning the branches, rotating branches and scaling the branches, and then instantiating them and smoothing them. And then you can even put LED lights on, and then you can get some palette alteration there. So, and then I join all the input at the end, all the tree stuff at the end here. And then I've also created a new material because if I switch over to UV editing, you won't recognize this. And I stuck with the Imphenzia Pixpal palette for a very long time, but I've decided since I needed to have the subsurface scattering and I needed more variations of specific tree types, I've actually created a separate one just for the foliage because that needs to be a separate material in game engines anyway. So I've created a whole bunch of different gradients up here for different leaf types, different greens. I've found a lot of different colors from different types of imagery. And then I've got autumn colors and some flower colors over here and more tropical or like exotic trees, and then into some dead trees over here. And then I've got tree trunks and branches here. And these are for vertical scrolling LED lights that will come into. So this is the new material. And I guess like the layout of the thing is pretty similar to Imphenzia Pixpal. So I'm using vertical scrolling so yeah, okay. Probably won't go into too much detail in that one right now. So here's for the tree now. I can increase the branch probability, and I'm pointing to this. Actually, I should show this one. I modeled these things. So this is the only things that I've got in here. It's 3 separate ones. It's this one, and it's this one, and it's this one. So it's like a low polish style, just a little twig of a branch and then some leaves that I put, and it's coming in from the origin, sorry. And it's just moving out along the y-axis and then just hanging down a little bit like this. And now I can take this collection and then just ramp up the branch probability. So if I go to the right here, it starts to spawn these little branches on top of the tree. And already it starts to look a lot nicer now. I think I've got a lot of control here. You can even go crazy. But now I'm at 296,000 birch, so this one would work for this tree. 300,000 is my limit. So let's leave it at that. And then you can control here the branch scale. So the minimum scale, you can go down and make little clusters, or big if I want really big trees. And then if I press backspace on this, it'll just reset it. And then you have the control over the seed here too, so you can just cycle through those. And then you can bend the whole tree. So this is this section of the geometry nodes. I'm gonna go and show this part here. So this part of the geometry nodes now bends the trees. It uses a noise texture, and then it multiplies the position and rotates that with a vector rotate. So now as I do this one, bend, it starts to create alterations of my tree. I can twist it a little bit like this. If I look from the top, you'll see. If I go overboard, it'll look like super weird. Now you can see what's actually happening behind the scene. You get something really funky there. You can do something really stylized. But something more subtle like this is probably better. And then you can change the scale of the rotation, and you cannot go overboard because it starts to break like this, but you have to use it with caution. And then you can change the axis too. So if I change like this one, I want to increase this axis. Maybe if I look from here, you can see that I can actually start to spread the tree and bend it a little bit in the sideways. Now I can ramp up, I think, the scale a little bit more because it's not spinning it around its own axis. So now I can bend it a little bit more violently like this. If I take off the leaves, you might be able to see what's going on here. So again, use with caution. It's just to get a little bit more variation out of the tree than you would normally do, instead of having to manually do it. So that's the bend section. And then let's go back here. And here we've got the branch rotation. And here's you can control how much the branches are spinning, minimum and maximum yaw. And then you got pitch here. This will make it a little bit more like a younger tree, I guess. And here, if you want something like a weeping tree, you can pull these down a little bit more like this. And then you got the roll control factor too, so you can make something totally different type. This looks a lot happier already. But I'll reset these with backspace. And then you've got LED lights. This is something I added because I thought, why not? You can create LED lights. And if I animate these are actually animated because you can switch through different patterns here. So if I go to this one, and it make more sense if it was a dark scene, but you got a whole bunch of 64 different LED patterns here with different twinkling lights, and you got more monochromatic lights too and that's why these are here on this right side. All of these are, you could just redraw these too and create your own sequences with different LED lights if you want specific colors. Maybe you want super pink ones or super, I don't know, flashy orange, different type of sequences and things. So that's what these are for, and they're animated over time too. So and this basically just spawns a whole bunch of little cubes. You can actually scale them up and you see what's going on. This looks an absolute mess, but you get the idea of what's happening. So these are the different, and then probability you can just have. If you wanted to, you could replace, I guess, you could do spheres instead, but the cubes are a little bit less, fewer birds in there. So let's just, we don't need LED lights for this tree, so I'm gonna go back here. I guess I'd have to create a whole separate tutorial, and I'll fix this one up a little bit, and I'll probably release it, because I've been releasing some of my Blender plugins too, so I'll have to find a way to release it. Maybe I'll go, this one has required a lot more work, so I'll probably release it on my Patreon at some point. But it's not there yet, so don't rush there, but at some point in the future, that's where I'm gonna be heading to do it. Oh yeah, and you can switch the branch collection here too. So I've got the birch, for example, here, and these ones I modeled a little bit too big, so I'd have to scale these down a little bit. So got something like that looks a little bit better for this one. And then I could switch. I tried a whole bunch of different, here's like some weird cluster concepts too that I don't really know what it is. So I tried a whole bunch of different styles. If I do min and max style here, we can see it's just like, it looks a bit like the Lorax or something, a little bit fluffy trees. This is actually 1.2 million now, so I'd have to go down a lot in the branch probability, or something like that. And then you've got different type of clusters here that I tried, because I tried to save time by not modeling actual leaves, but they look kind of cool from a distance, but when you get close, they just literally look like a cluster of triangles, but from a distance, I think they'll work. And if you're going for a specific stylized look. And then we've got some different ones here. And oh yeah, one thing I forgot to show actually was this one. So we'll go back into the oaks here, and then we'll reset the size of everything. So we got nice and big ones, and then reset the number. Here, this one up here, we've got trunk palette. So now I can switch the trunk color between. This is just taking the UVs and offsetting them by 1/128th. So I can actually move into different trunks, and then I can trunk palette V offset. I can actually go, I have to be a little bit careful there, but I can jump up vertically and get totally different, maybe less contrasty looks over here too. So I can step through these in different directions. Let's reset. And same for the leaves, the foliage palette UV offset. So if I go left, there are a couple of ones here, different greens. And if I step to the right, there's all different. Now we start to come into the autumn section. And then here we're starting to get into more exotic, like the jacaranda trees. They're blooming here soon. It's going to look like this all over the place here in Australia soon. I absolutely love the purple colors of the jacarandas. So nice. And then you can go over here. Maybe you got a cherry blossom over here, something like that. And then you've got even more like white leaves. This looks oriental somehow, kind of cool. So these are, and then you can also control the vertical offset. Again, I have to be a little bit careful, but if I go back to the original one here, you can see if I step up the vertical, I can actually pick other gradients here too. So it's not like a perfect control, because it could actually be lerping over to a different, like here I'm into like the wrong section. So you have to be a little bit careful, but in general it kind of works. So you can control different colors of the trunks and these ones. Now I'm gonna hide this one, and I'm gonna hide the birch tree that I made earlier today. And I'm gonna hide these, and I'm gonna, in 10 minutes now. So this is the 10-minute modeling challenge. That was a 30-minute intro. Interesting how my intros are sometimes a little bit too long, but at least I covered a lot of ground island-wise. So now we're gonna be modeling a willow tree, a weeping willow. So I started to find these type of things. So I could see a little bit, I just used Pinterest mainly. So I could get some ideas of different trees. This is what I use for my birch tree. And then I can see a little bit to us human, how big they are. So I can get the scale decent. And then I just looked at different charts. Again, Pinterest, I found different type of leaves. So I just need the rough shape of them and what they look like. And then we're gonna be looking at something like a willow tree today. So I just looked at the different, these are, I think, AI generated or something. So I'm just gonna be looking at, because I like the style of this one, so I'll do something similar with like a twisty thing that comes up. So I'm gonna switch over to my UV editing tab, resize it, press Shift-C, get my cursor in here, and I'm gonna start the clock now and model the base. And then I guess I'll have to, when there's about, I think I've only got, let's see. It's gonna be tough to squeeze in because I'm gonna try to create the leaf too. So in 10 minutes, this is gonna be a real challenge actually. I'll have to not spend too much time on the trunk, and I'll probably have to maybe make a refined version later. Weeping Willow in ready. Am I recording? Imagine if I recorded that intro without recording it. That would have sucked. Ready, steady, go, and we're off. Yep, all right, so I'm gonna press Shift-D to duplicate this one, Shift space G, and okay, I'm animating, that's why maybe stuff we're missing. Delete this one, right click, subdivide, and then I'm gonna go in here, loop tools, circle, and then X, and limited dissolve. Move it down underground here, and scale it up. E to extrude, S to scale. And then I'm gonna get the twist here now. So E to extrude, S to scale, E to extrude, S to scale, rotate, E to extrude, S to scale, rotate, E to extrude, S to scale, rotate. And then at the top here, I'm gonna put some more interesting stuff. So I'm gonna go up to here, E to extrude, S to scale, R to rotate, E to extrude, S to scale, R to rotate. And I know you can control right click. I just find I get more control if I do it this way. So select these, Control R to loop cut them first, and then circle, and then scale this one up, and E to extrude, S to scale, and E to extrude, S to scale, R to rotate, E to extrude, S to scale, R to rotate. And then I'm going to put another one here, Control R, select these, circle, G to move it, scale them up, E to extrude, S to scale, R to rotate. And then here's the Control right click you can do, but for some reason I don't feel like I have as much control with that one. Even though I'm using literally the control key, you would have thought. And if you have a Mac, you have to use the command key, but you shouldn't really be using a Mac. I'm a PC guy, and I'm always going to stay that way. So, so should you. Well, anyway, Control R. Put in the comments if you're a Mac person. I'm only messing anyway, so PC is of course better. Scale, E to extrude, R to rotate, and something like this. And I've already used nearly 2 minutes now, so I think I'm gonna switch over already now. We need to do some stuff for different routes here, because I want to have controls of, like on some levels I want the routes to be seen, so I'm gonna create a couple of these. Circle and E to extrude, S to scale, but I'm not gonna go overboard. If you're a sailor, that would suck. So right, shift mark these, circle, scale, G to move, E to extrude, S to scale, R to rotate, E to extrude, S to scale, and E to extrude, S to scale. I feel the heat coming on now. Maybe it's my lamps actually. That's probably what it is. So circle and G, E to extrude, S to scale, and I feel stressed now because I know I have to do like some sculpting too now. So R to rotate and E to extrude, S to scale, E to extrude, and R to rotate. So there we go. Okay, so now I'm gonna shift E to duplicate this one and then just move it to the side, back up, hide you. Right click, no, I'm gonna do Control Tab and Sculpt mode, and I'm gonna switch over to Dino Topo. I know that's a bit of a crime in some cases, but it's gonna be okay. And then I'm gonna use the snake hook down here, and then we're gonna pull these out, and because I need some more geometry now for my branches to actually come off. So right click and change the radius a little bit, and then okay, here's the problem with the snake tool. I have to go a little bit closer like this. Okay, this is gonna have to do. And then maybe I can twist the whole thing too a little bit more. So I want a little bit more character to this tree. So radius down, and here we go. And create a few of these. We need this to weep. So here we go. I don't have any time to look at any references now, so I'll just have to wing it and see. She should probably not, like, it's not really growing probably this way in real life. So how am I doing? 6 minutes already. 6 minutes left, so that's a good thing, I guess. So something like this, and then here. And it's gonna be, it was meant to be weeping actually, so I need to do more ones that are coming down, I think. Even though that's mainly the foliage probably that's meant to be hanging down. I think I can help it along a little bit by creating branches that are actually weeping too. So let's do a few of those. And here. So I think that's gonna have to do now. Okay, something like that. And then I'll have to sculpt this a little bit too. So I'll go into, I don't know, like the clay strips. And then we'll get a little bit more interesting here. I'm gonna try to twist this one up. Like, I think I saw that on the reference, that it had a bit of a twist look to it. So let's try to get a twist look. And I know when I'm nervous because my nose starts to itch. So, and it's really itchy right now. So how am I doing? Half the time is gone and I haven't even gone to the leaves yet. So I'm gonna have to like just leave it like this. Woo! Tree. Another joke just snuck its way in, but I have to leave it at that. The scroll. Okay, so this is gonna have to do Control Tab, Object Mode, and Shift D to duplicate, move it, hide it, because I can come back to it later if I need to. Now we need to decimate this thing, add modifier, generate, decimate, 0.1 maybe, bring it down from 160,000 to 13,000 or 16,000. That's gonna do. And then Control A to apply this one, and now I can just. I think we'll right click and do auto shade to get this look. And now I'm gonna change my material, H select everything, scale it down to 0, and then I'm just gonna put it on like some sort of a tree trunk color here. I'll go for the basic color there. There we go. And I don't have time to do too much more to it, so I'll have to come back maybe and tweak the coloring a little bit, but let's get the vertex painting. This one might be a bit of an issue. This looks like it's been amputated. Okay, sorry about that. Then Alt select the link, Control I, because I noticed that a few are hanging in the air. Delete those verts. They don't need them anymore. And then, okay, so 350. Z, I'm going to go into solid mode, and I'm a little bit slow with this one because I don't do it too much. And then I have to go in here and select the like attributes or something, color. So let's see, what is that? Control Tab, Vertex Paint, select the attribute there. And then I have to select all of this black now. This tab into edit mode, mesh. This is a bit confusing. And I highlight the attribute there. Mesh, set attribute. And I'm going to change everything to just a solid red. So where did it go? Mesh, set attribute, color red. There we go. And then now I'm just going to switch this color. This one needs to improve a little bit. It's so confusing. And then increase the radius and then max strength, Alt Z to see through. And then for some reason, it's not painting here. I hope Blender doesn't crash on me now because it's done that in the past when I did this. So why is it not painting on Z, solid? I'm going to press Ctrl S to save this because I have a feeling it might crash on me. So it's not painting my vert colors here. I've changed this. Why is it doing this to me? Hello. So vertex paint, Z, and it's not doing anything. Strength. Okay, I'm gonna blame Blender on this one. What have I done wrong? Why is it not painting my colors now? Select attributes. Okay, I'll have to move on to 2 minutes to go. Okay, I'll come back to that. How about that then, you stupid thing? Why aren't you painting my stupid things? Okay, now I have to do some leaves. So Shift A, and I'll do a plane here, scale it down, and then I'm gonna move it on the, I think it was along, which one axis was it? This axis. So I'm just gonna do Weeping Willow style, scale, E to extrude, something really nice and thin and narrow. Oh, 1 minute to go. So this is not gonna work. And then E to extrude, S to scale. Okay, now we need to put the material on here. So Alt select linked P, separate by selection, go in here, and it's got the foliage. Okay, why is it looking like a weird there? So Alt select the linked, H select everything, scale down to 0, G, and we're gonna put a bright, like greeny color here, something like this. And then we need to press Z and go into material preview. Alt select the link, scale it down, and what's the size roughly? So something like that. This tree is way too small, by the way. So Control A, apply that scale, and then here, 51 seconds, G, and then I need to right click, set origin to 3D cursor. Alt select the link to G, and I'll have to fix this in a minute. I'll just put a whole bunch of these. Shift E to duplicate and rotate. And then Shift E to duplicate, rotate, Shift E, Shift E. And then it's gonna weep all the way down to here. Shift E, Shift E, and Shift E to duplicate. And then, okay, so I guess I'll just, I'm running out of time, 13 seconds, so I'm just gonna have to apply my geometry nodes now and switch it to my trees. And then put this into a collection. Willow leaf. Ah! Okay, so I'm gonna give myself another 30 seconds because I did not anticipate the bug, so I'm not gonna give up yet. I'm gonna pretend I'm still at the, at the end run here. So I'm gonna add this into, where is it? So willow leaf, and then we're gonna create, I have to create a collection for this. So scroll down, right click. I don't know why it doesn't create a collection for this one. That would have been nice because I actually right clicked on that one. But I'm gonna go into the new collection up here somewhere. Why is it so sensitive? That's what I wonder. Ah, come on. There, collection 20, and then willow, leaf, willow. And then now I can select that one in here. And we're gonna have it flip out because it's gonna go absolutely crazy since I haven't painted the colors correctly. So, okay, it might actually crash now because here we go. G, or maybe it didn't crash. Oh yeah, it's because I need to paint, it doesn't have any vertex colors now, so let's see if we can get that sorted. So G to move this one to the side here, and then now we need to see Control Tab, Vertex Paint, Z, Solid, and it's not allowing me to paint. attribute. This is very interesting. So I'm actually going to save here and then reload this thing. I wonder if it's a bug. I have to accept sometime. Oh, started the wrong one. I have to uninstall version 4.5 because it keeps starting the wrong one sometimes. Okay, so Control Tab, Vertex Paint. What? Oh, okay, it's because so it is somehow working. I'm actually painting verts. That's why it was exploding. So it was a bug, because now I can, if I pick black here, see, yeah. So, like, invalidate that run. I'm not going to take that as a loss then. Buggy. So I'm just gonna paint the bottom here. We don't want this one to bend in the wind anyway. So something like that. And then here, gradually just decrease it up this one. Something like this. And we don't want any branches to spawn down there anyway. And now, one more thing I have to do now is switch onto the green, because I'm actually using a little bit of a green detection here too. So I'm gonna switch to the green color. And then a little bit of a radius and a little bit of strength there, and then I'm just gonna dab the tips like this. That's all that's needed. So this is actually gonna help my geometry node script to say, okay, this is where I want. It's only where there's a bit of green that it's gonna spawn branches. So this is how I control it from not spawning along up the base. I could go with some sort of a height control too. But I found that this one is like kill 2 stones with 1 bird or something, or whatever you say. Maybe it's the opposite. Then this one will actually affect, like, set the wind stuff in Unreal Engine, and it'll help me spawn the leaves. So, like, unless you know about it, it's a bit like that's why I can't really release the plugin the way it is now, because people wouldn't necessarily know yet how to paint the vert colors and stuff. So I need to think that through a little bit more. But what I need to do is just paint a bit of green at all the tips here, or anywhere that I want it to be able to spawn. I could theoretically paint there too, and that'll spawn some stuff from there. Maybe we can try if necessary. So got some broken birch there too, but that's okay. So something like this will do. Now Control Tab, we'll go into object mode again. Z, material preview, and then now we can see enable this one. And okay, I need to check my references now too, because how big is this tree compared to some of the other stuff? Oh, it's way too big, the tree. Check, that's how much, that's the size of my, how big is this thing? 55 meters, that's a gigantic willow tree. So we'll scale it down to maybe like 14 meters. Control A, apply that scale. And then these leaves are way too big too. So let's see, I need to go to the front view, move it to the side, and then these I need to just period and go to 3D cursor and scale it, and then scale this whole thing down to. So I was pretty much right with the size first, then I guess. Now we're starting to at least see the tree. So delete. So it looks super stupid now, because this is where the artistic stuff comes in. You have to spend more time with the leaf formations now. So I could probably automate this too with a geometry node script, which would make a lot of sense, to be honest. But for now, I'm I haven't managed to get to that point yet. So I'm gonna go to medium point again, and now I'm gonna Shift L and duplicate these. And actually, I can see in real time like what's happening behind the scenes. Like if I glance over at that tree, L select linked, move up. You see, if I move this one that was furthest down, we can get that one. L select the linked, R to rotate, and this takes a bit of time. So, but I'll spend a little bit of time just doing it so it doesn't look absolutely stupid. And also, I think it cannot be just a single strip like this. You have to spend a little bit more time, get them a little bit offset and overlay them. First, I made twigs for everything too. And that's doable if you want the detail of actual trees. But then I found that I was wasting a lot of polygons that you don't really pay attention to in games. So I opted to kind of skip those in favor of just reducing, like halving the amount of polygons and then just focusing on the leaf. That's what's going to be different. Like if you play a game or something, that's what you're going to be focusing on more, I think. So Shift D to duplicate, and I'm going to narrow it down naturally, like towards the tip there, and then make a few more of them up here. Shift D to duplicate, R to rotate, Shift D to duplicate, and then R to rotate. And soon I can actually do like a bunch of them in a minute. So should really rotate them a little bit more in different angles to get some side rotations too. Alt select the link, Shift D to duplicate, rotate. This is where I would have gotten to if it didn't get a bug there with the vertex paint. Probably not. So, and then a few more here. Shift D to duplicate, and Shift D to duplicate, Shift D to duplicate, and I'm going to spread them out a little bit more here for no apparent reason. It just feels like it could give it a little bit more coverage in the top foliage there. And then meanwhile, I can also see when I've got the tree selected in a minute now, I'll be able to see how many verts we're up to roughly, so I can see. So these need to go up a little bit. And G to move them, and then something like this. And this is still looking way too messy, like too I mean, it would work, but then I've also got this control where I can make it weep a little bit more like that. Maybe make the branches a little bit smaller. And now it's starting to look a little bit more, let's see, pitch, roll. We can make it spin a little bit. Maybe that's nice. And the yaw, we don't really need to pay attention. Oh no! It crashed. And I don't think I saved it. And then I'm starting version 4. Idiot. What's so up with Blender today? Maybe it's because there's some... okay. Well, we're back to here anyway. That's good. At least we know that... okay, it's buggy. Maybe and this is not even a 0.0 release, it's a 4.5.2, so now I have to redo this part. And I'm gonna drag you through it in the video too, if I'm, let's suffer together. Now, at least I know what to do now. And this is repetition for you, if you need to see it again. So green, and I need to go in here, and then dab these, and this is to be expected. And this time I'm actually gonna save it then, I guess. Dab a bit of green in here, and here, and here, and there, and there. This is going to be a long video. Hope, sorry for taking up a lot of your time today. And the good thing is you can fast forward. If you're here for the live preview though, or like the live premiere, then you cannot fast forward. I think I'm going to be like a little bit behind schedule uploading this one again. I had to have a little nap before I recorded this one because I was super tired. My daughter was at a disco today, so I brought her there, and then I was going to record when I came back, but it's now 1:46 a.m. and this is meant to be airing in like an hour and a half. So I'm going to save this now, Control Tab, Object Mode, and then I'm going to bring this one so I can see the size. There, scale this one down. We can actually look at the height here, about 15 meters, something like this. There we go, 18 meters. Control A, apply that scale, and then now we can light up this one. And then I'm gonna scale these down. Period, 3D cursor, scale it down to there. And why is, oh yeah, Z, material preview, Control Z, S I'm gonna save now, like a lunatic. So we can bring this tree back to here now. And then now we're back to this part, enjoyable. So 3, Alt Z, and then Alt select the linked, Shift D to duplicate, period, and go medium point again. So Shift D to duplicate, Shift D to duplicate, Shift D to duplicate, and then Shift D to duplicate, Shift E to duplicate, and R to rotate. Sorry, I have to enable screencast keys again, because that's another thing. It likes to just disable. How cruel. Maybe Blender 5. No, I was gonna say will be stable, but in general, like, to be fair, Blender is pretty stable all the time. And I'm doing like the geometry nodes you get up into. Why am I making excuses now? I just lost some serious work here. And again, with Gaia, I had issues too. I had to recreate all my hand-drawn nodes because that just cleared the cache for some reason. And I reported, for some reason, they don't accept any support talk in their Discord. So I actually registered a support case with them for that one. So there we go. And we have to do a little bit more interesting stuff at the top here. So Shift E to do, okay. L select link, Shift D to duplicate, R to rotate. Maybe I'm not meant to like have a geometry nodes actively creating everything in the background while I'm modeling these. Maybe that's why it crashed. Maybe I'm asking a little bit too much from it. R to rotate, and here we go. L select link, Shift D to duplicate, and Shift D to duplicate. Something like this. Okay, and another thing, Control S to save. And then another thing I did here was I made it a little bit weepier, didn't I? So min roll, no, not that one, this one. Make it hang a little bit more like this. You don't really see too much of the trunk now. And one thing I wanted to do too, I wanted to twist this tree a little bit more. So I might actually do this now in post. I'm gonna select the top here. And then I'm gonna do proportional O, and then R to rotate Z. And see if I can just twist this tree a little bit. Something like that, maybe. And even more. Rotate Z. Okay, let's try that. Okay, you can't really see it too much because it's... and these are... I'm not as happy with these, so I'm gonna have to move these. Control plus. Why is this tree still showing? Proportional G. Oh, that's big. Proportional. Just make some. I think I need to do some spin twists too because I'll select the linked R to rotate. Why is it not? I'll rotate. L rotate, Shift D to duplicate, R to rotate. And maybe some slight color variations too, because these are maybe looking a little bit too uniform. So I'm going to select everything, F3, select random, and then switch this one to deselect, and then maybe deselect to there, and then I'm gonna go Control plus, and then just change this color a little bit. And then F3, select random, and then a few darker, maybe I'll do a few more like these, brighter. And then a few at the back here, maybe the ones that are underneath here. LL. These can be a little bit darker, the ones that are behind there. There we go. And then you should really have different variations too. Oh yeah, I think one thing I did, was this too big still? Come on. And then how many verts? Oh, 600,000. Okay, I need to go down 0.15. 0.11. I need to get under 300,000. That's just a rule of thumb there. So 0.1, something like that. All right, that's okay. Then I can make them a little bit bigger again, I think. There we go. And now I can just create variations of this one too. So if I do Shift D to duplicate this one, it'll actually put it right into my willow leaf collection there. And now I can just jumble this one and make it a little bit. So about half of them now will be affected. by doing it slightly. I should really scale maybe the leaves a little bit differently. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I know like I'm already on a very long video here. So scale, maybe proportional, Alt O, and then just G. Rotate, rotate. G to move. Just create a bit of variation here. G, G, and then duplicate this one. Control S to save it. G, G, and then if I move these up a little bit, like to be honest, I'm going to take a few of these leaves away now, delete, because then it'll just every third will not have ones that go down, so it'll make them a little bit further down like that, and then maybe we'll make it a little bit. We could do some different variations too to the side, but I won't. Alt select the link, Shift D to duplicate that one. Alt select the link, G, scale to move it. Okay, so I think, I mean, anything that I do now will just be a little, like, I think we'll just try this tree now to see what it looks like in the game engine. I'm going to change the color a little bit. So the palette for the trunk, let's step that one up. I want that to be a little bit darker than this. So something like this. And then I could step down. Maybe something like that. And I'm not really happy with this root. So let's O, G. And I have to be careful now because I've painted these verts, but these are like solid black down here for the weight, so it's not really affecting. That's okay. So, and then I haven't colorized this. Generally what I do too here is I'll go in here and then I'm gonna like use C to circle select there. And then generally I tend to put these to a darker color like this, so it creates like that shadow effect. I'm realizing that these trees will take, so 10 minutes is not enough to make a tree. I think realistically I'm looking at about maybe an hour or something like that to make a tree like this. Because here I'd need to spend a little bit more. Actually, it's a little bit more polygons than I'm used to too for the tree here. So, but I'll select a few of these. Shift select a bunch of those. I could have decimated this one more, come to think of it. It's not really in the low poly realm anymore. And I'll do a few here too, just so we can see roughly. Select a few of those. And here, control select to there, control select to there, shift select. Okay, so just for the sake of testing, we'll do something like that. But again, I think I'd have to tweak that on a little bit more. Now let's try to export this thing. So F2, I'm going to call this one Willow. Okay, I'm actually going to follow my naming standard that I'm trying to do. F2, so tree underscore Willow underscore 1 summer. And we've got it's a normal tree and variation 1. So that's it. And then I need to move it down because it needs to be about, oh no, that's okay. So now I'm going to go Unreal Prepper and then export individual FBX, and I'm just going to save it there, and it's all ready now to be imported into Unreal Engine because it collects the correct settings and everything. We've got Unreal Engine here, nature, and I'm going to drag my willow tree into my hierarchy here. Import, and I think I actually missed one thing. Let's see, and this needs to be the tree trunk material. Foliage, that one needs to be trunk, and this needs to be foliage. Yeah, that's it. So export individual, save again, and then re-import this one because I changed. I've got two materials now. The trunk has got one material and the other one's got the other. Double click on this one. It's importing still. And there's the willow tree, and then switch this one, MI, picks foliage. Okay, apparently not. Material instance picks trunk. Okay, and that was the foliage. MI picks trunk. Bonk. There we go. And then I'm going to enable preserve area for nanites. Nanites enabled. And apply. Change. And now let's put it, I'll put it over here by the water. Maybe here. Drag it in. It's a bit small. Scale it up. And then here's where you could do with some variations of it. So Alt select. Actually, I'm going to drag it in so I get the height right straight away. Rotate. So. And then tilt a little bit. And a big one. Willow, willow, willow. I'll put some up here on the hill too. And here. Let's try it. And then Alt P, I guess, will bring me here now. Ooh! Here's our willow. Okay, it's got a collider on now, so I'm probably not gonna be able to walk in here. And I think the leaves are a little bit too bright, maybe. But that's an easy fix. What do you think? Should they be bright like this, the leaves? Let's try a darker one too. So, and this is the nice thing. It's pretty easy to, like, now I can just go in here, pick this one, and then change the palettes. So let's go for palettes. Okay, that was the trunk one. Here, bonk, bonk. Oh, maybe that one. That's a totally different color. And then maybe a little bit darker. Let's try that. Big difference. Export. And then right click and re-import. But I think they're meant to be pretty bright like this. This might be way off. It needs to rebuild the nanite mesh and should pop up any minute there. There we go. I mean, that works too. It's a bit too saturated, I think. I'm gonna disable the collider too, and we'll jump in. Collision, remove collision. And then I have to replace that one with a better one. Alt P. F11. I think those ones, they're too repetitive. There are a few dark leaves there that makes it... No, this one is not as nice at all. Okay, so escape. Plus, I think there are a few leaves in there that are too dark. So final fix now is I'm gonna go in here, tab into edit mode, and I'm gonna see if I can find... So there were a few leaves like this one, the outlier there, it's too dark. So grab that one, move it up to here again. And then we'll change... Oh, I'm hiding some of them, that's fine. Tab, and bring you guys up there too. And then I think... What do you mean I think? There we go. Change the palette. That one might be nicer. This one we'll try. Final one. Final answer. Export individual. Go back in here. Right click. Re-import. And I think it actually recreates my collider every time I re-import. So I have to go back and manually disable that one again, I think. Yeah, I think that's a nicer green. Collision, remove collision. And press play, F11. And final test here. Now I think the tree trunk is too dark. So maybe that's what needs fixing. But I think that works otherwise. Plus they wouldn't really be by the beach like this, so I'll probably find a little creek instead where these would belong a little bit better. Should we try to see how they behave in the wind maybe? That will be the final thing. Alter them. Let's try in a thunderstorm. Looks wet. Here you can see the twigs actually. I paid a little bit of green on them, and they, I think they behave alrightish now. Sometimes they can go a little bit overboard. Weeping willows, suiting with the rain. I'll try to put one over here in this collection too, see how they match the other trees. And go back, weather, partly cloudy. And then put a willow here. And one here. Rotate. And see how they blend. Will it blend? Final test. Final test. Why am I off screen? I've been sitting wonky all the time. Alright, so I think that it just needs to be not quite as dark, the stem there, because it shows through a little bit more. That's the fix that I'll do for this one. Alright, so there we have it. A quick little video this week. And thanks for tuning in. I'll be having to tidy up my geometry node script a little bit better, because I cannot really release it the way it is now. Only I know really how to work it. Plus I need to fix that material. But at some point I'm hoping to put that on my website and on my Patreon. So Patreons, thanks, a big thumbs up, because you guys are actually making this possible. The Imphenzia is my full-time thing that I do these days now. I don't really work on Lineware at the moment, so that if I need to do more development on that, the main dev will contact me on that one. So, but that's a bit of a back burner. So right now, Imphenzia is my full-time job, and this is what I do. So thanks to my Patreons, you're really making this possible, because without your support, I couldn't really do it. So thumbs up to you guys, and at some point I'll be adding more rewards there. You can already get a whole bunch of stuff there. So hopefully if you become a Patreon, that's you're already a bit of a reward there. But at some point I'll add, so we can have the geometry nodes, so you guys can be creating stylized trees too. Because and then I'm just hoping to create a massive asset pack of nature, low poly nature. It's not low poly anymore, I know, but it's kind of that style anyway. It's untextured, that's what we'll call it. So give it a thumbs up if you like this video, and please consider subscribing if you haven't. I'm nearly at 300,000K, and we're going to be celebrating that in a few months with a 24-hour live stream, probably. If my voice holds up, that's going to be interesting. But until next time, have a great one, and I'll see you then. Bye for now.